Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliot Manning. This week, I'm joined all the way over in LA by Tom. Tom works for a company called Engage PSG and has been working with the firm for 7-8 years now. Tom, is that right? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah. So been with the firm for about 6 or 7 years. I lose count. I'm based here in Los Angeles. I actually recently moved out here about 5 months ago from San Francisco, where I was 2 years prior. But then the rest of the front end of being with Engage was in London, where the HQ is, where we're based.
Brilliant. So tell me something, you've been in recruitment now for 5, 6, 7 years, as long as it is. How sum it up in a sentence, or kind of how would you tell someone if someone said, look, I'm thinking about getting into recruitment, this is a great industry. Heard you can make loads of money in it. You've been in it for all this time, Tom. How have you found it?
So you want my secrets?
Tell me that. Tell me and everyone listening your secrets.
So what I've learned is that when I very first got into this game, let's call it a game because we both like football. Let's call it a game. When we got into the recruitment game, I was actually introduced by a friend and an ex-colleague of mine at the company I was with prior. We were selling art.
Yep.
Used to sell art.
Nice.
And it's always stuck with me because he always said to me, like, you need to be in an environment where you are constantly around people, talking to lots of different people, learning new things, because you are a people's person.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, all right. So I interviewed with a few, recruitment firms. I interviewed with a couple of very corporate suit style firms. That at the time, I was very much into sales and being the corporate guy and in that kind of environment. So of course I was, thinking, okay, I could do with working with these big companies, lots and lots of people. But then I came across Engage, and it was a boutique, a niche firm that had that very family type of feel to it, and very personalized, and immediately got rapport with the CEO, Kevin. And then on my journey from that point onwards, I've been through a lot of trial and error, the very, KPI type of setup where you got to hit your numbers, you got to get your resumes out and so forth and so forth. I never really found that worked for me. To answer your question, long story short, this is very much about just understanding people and listening to people, because at the end of the day, I mean, recruitment will give you the old cliche of, a human isn't going to change their mind. A human could change their mind. Yeah. Unlike a product.
Yes,
right?
Of course. Yeah.
So it's a different type of sell. And what I really found is that it's very much it's a psychology game. It's listening and understanding people as to what they really, really want.
Yeah.
And it might not work out in the short term. You have to understand that. It might be a long term, a long game, a long play. And it is, most recruiters will say, I play the long game. And if they've been in it for 6, 7 years, they'll know that's true. And it is, it's getting yourself out there, talking to lots and lots of people, building really strong relationships, actual relationships, checking back in with them always, don't just let them slip. I think, after a few years of doing that and persevering with that, you get somewhere and you enjoy it. You enjoy learning about lots of different people. I talk to people all day, every day, and I've learned so much, especially being out here in the States.
So something that I've noticed about recruiters, and I'd like to get your kind of, I suppose, your opinion on the matter as well. A lot of recruiters will not do what you suggested in the whole understanding and the listening to the people and the learning aspect of it. A lot of recruiters are kind of in a position where they're pushy, and they think if they feel like that's the right job for that person, they will push them in that direction. And that will always, in my opinion, end up, I suppose, in an unhappy way. You know, they'll either leave, they'll not take it, they get countered. Do they really want to leave? So do you find that that's the case? Do you find that, you know, to be more successful and in the position that you might be in right now, that you've got to listen to the candidate and not feel like you know best, they know best, because it's their job?
Yeah, and it's much more than a job, man. It's a life. It's the moment you reach out to that person, right? They wake up that morning not knowing that their whole world's going to change that day.
Yeah,
that's a big deal. Imagine waking up knowing that you're going to be in a completely different environment and place within the next few weeks. It's a big deal. It's much more than just a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a life move. It's a career change. You're asking someone to move on from the family and the connections they've built and join another one. That's not an easy process. So the quicker you can understand that, the better the outcome's going to be for everyone. And to go back to your point about a lot of recruiters think, you know, with the pressure point, when you buy a car or a house or a fridge or a TV, I don't know, there's nothing worse than being pressured into it. Oh, you've got to make a decision in 15 minutes. Like, you're asking someone to change their life in a short space of time. It's not going to work. It might do. If you're dealing with 100 people at once, one or two of them may well say,
yeah, okay, very few.
Yeah. But that methodology does not work. Don't get me wrong. When I first joined recruitment, I thought that's what it was all about. Yeah. And I tested and trialed that. It's so frustrating. So frustrating.
Yeah.
But then over the years, you learn that, hang on a sec. It's not about that. It's you're making they're a human being. You're a human being, and you're making a connection with this person.
Yeah, of course.
And vice versa. And it's a big deal. It's a massive deal. So you need to treat it and respect that.
Oh, look, I'm pleased you brought it up. It was something I've been thinking about and have experienced myself, you know, within the team. And I just felt like, you know, that's something that needs to be, you know, acted on and developed a bit better. But you brought it up and said it how it is. I'm curious to know. So when, you know, you started out in recruitment, you worked your way up into the business. Did you ever go into a route of, in London, was it London that you're based?
Yeah.
Were you managing the team in London? Were you a team leader, or were you a experienced, solid, senior principal recruiter and then moved over to the States? Like, how did that journey work?
So yeah, I started off as a junior, got promoted after year one, got promoted again after year two. During year three, I really learned to own the RegTech space. So we as a business now, not back then, now we specialize in RegTech. So regulatory technologies, FinTech type technologies, and work with organizations that build and create and patent that type of software, and then go out to market with the banks and e-commerce and so forth. So that, you know, it was like year 2 to 3 where I really got involved in that space and was our lead in London for that particular division. We hired 1 or 2 individuals who came and worked within my team. I will admit I was a terrible manager back then.
Why would you say that? Yeah, tell me, because I've had so many people on this podcast, right? And I've had people say that, oh, I've made mistakes and I'm not even a good manager. And I like to just tell me, why do you say that? It's just interesting to know.
Because my background was, I wouldn't go as far as saying regimented, but generations above me, my family were quite regimented. Like, my granddad fought in the army. My dad was like, you know, big into coaching, leadership, more on the kind of sports side. And he's a stellar businessman, entrepreneur. So my upbringing was, you got to be a wolf leading the pack, and managing people for the first time is like a test. You know, it's like, what are you made of? Like, I was always the captain of my teams in football, you know, and I was kind of ruthless, to say the least, on the pitch. And I took that approach into the office. Not a good idea. I was the one getting stressed out more than anything, because I set such high expectations that, you know, you expect people to get up to that, but then what you miss out is the whole journey part, right? Now I look back and think, wow, I went on one hell of a journey to get to this point, and you have to respect that someone might not be at that stage yet, and you have to help get to that stage. So going back into management in the future, I can adopt a lot of mistakes where I went wrong. And to go back to your question, London, I was, you know, team lead for the division, managed 1 or 2 individuals. And then, you know, I got to a point where the trust was there for me to take that concept over to another country on the other side of the world, which in itself was a journey. And I'm sure you're going to ask me a question about that right now.
So tell me, this move to LA, right? And again, I've spoken to different people that have moved over to the States in different locations, from Texas to New York to Chicago to Los Angeles. Why did you go? I'm going to ask you in a different way, if that's okay, just to mix it up a little bit. Had you been to LA before you joined the business, before you set up out there?
No.
Okay.
So shall we talk about LA or San Francisco first? Because obviously there was
let's do both. Did you go to San Fran before you started off out there in LA, before you moved over there?
Yeah, we used to, as a family, come on vacation. I think three times. I've been to Florida, and from the age of 8, the first time I went to Florida, I had it set in my mind ever since, I'm going to be in the States one day. I just prefer it there. Yeah. And for many reasons, we won't go into that. But you know, I mean, Florida is like its own country. Now I've learned, but and by the way, never moved to America based on how cool Disney and theme parks are.
Just the amount of times you can go to Universal Studios. Yeah,
it's not like that. There's a lot going on here. But I had my first few glimpses of being in this country, right? But I'd never been to California. The first time I went to San Francisco was with the CEO of the company and the group, Kevin and John, and we came out here just to see what it was like. And immediately I thought, boom, that's for me. You know, first day in California, I was like, I want this so bad. What have I got to do to get there? So fast forward 6 months, I went through the visa process and so forth and came out here. And it was, you know, I sorted myself out pretty quickly within the first 5 days, you know, did all the admin stuff and found a place and so forth. But the first 5 months was very interesting because, you know, I was trying to ramp up the RegTech space. You know, I was working it for about a year or so beforehand and had some good clients and some contacts and did a few deals here and there. But I was really trying to ramp up. Then something happened. I was team number 4 or 5 to join the US in general. At the time, I was the 4th member of the team we'd already built out here. And the people that I worked with prior, about five or so months into being out here, overnight they packed up and they started their own business. Which, you know, full credit, fair play to them. You know, if you can go and start your own business once you really master an art, you know, it's kind of the way to go, I guess. And basically what that meant is I had all of this responsibility on my shoulders, of other clients, other, you know, lots of other parties involved, and having to like just run a business on my own in a foreign country. I'd never done such thing before. It was, man, 4 or 5 months was stressful. but on a positive note, that's where I really learned a lot about who I was. Not completely, but a big part of learning who I am today was in that very moment. And, you know, fast forward a couple of years, I built a pretty successful practice here where we're turning over extremely high numbers for a one-man band, so to say. And we've got some really, you know, rock star partnerships with some excellent organizations that are just changing the game, the RegTech space, with their tech, and have made some great friends, you know, as well as contacts. And it's been a great journey. And I think it was like that part of coming into the COVID, you know, time frame that made me, you know, feel as though, you know, it's not all about going and walking into the office every single day and working the long hours. You know, you can work smarter. You don't have to work hard. You can work smart, and that's a big part of the formula I've personally developed. And I thought, you know what? I always wanted to be in LA. I had visited LA a couple of times whilst I was living in San Francisco, and it almost seemed like a dream that was just too good to be true. And I thought, you know what? Let's just do it. My lease is up soon. Let's just do it. And I moved down here, and yeah, it's a great vibe. You know, it's a great. There's the pros and the cons, of course, and a lot of people have actually left both San Francisco and LA and gone to places like maybe Texas or Florida for various reasons. But yeah, I've enjoyed being here so far. It's a different type of culture and crowd, and just learning every day.
Brilliant. Do you know what? It's a great story, mate. And I know that it's obviously been a difficult journey for you, but you know, to speak to someone like yourself, and you know, I've not spoken to anyone that's gone over to the States to join a business, you know, with a team, and you know, the excitement, and then all of a sudden, bang, you know, no one's there. You know, they've all gone, and you know, you've gone over there with an expectation. And look, you know, you can be proud of where you are now and what you've got to achieve moving forward, which is going into my kind of next and final, you know, part of this is, you know, what's the plan for you? You know, what's the journey looking like over the next 6-12 months? And I know you're looking to build a team and start getting things moving at some point over there. If you can tell those who's, you know, listening, you know, what you're up to.
Yeah, so we've gone through a slight transition lately, where we're Engage is now it's independent situation, and we're going through a few things that over the next few months will be slightly different, but for the good. And yeah, we're really honing in and owning this RegTech space. We've got, you know, quite a few clients that are innovators in that arena. And it's important, you know, to understand the client needs and requirements and what it takes to build those organizations out, and what they can offer for the candidate in return. And yeah, we're just continuing down that route of building that out. I have some very ambitious plans on going into some other domains of markets I'm personally interested in as well. Maybe a year or two down the road. But yeah, we're about to start hiring and building a team and taking things to the next level now. It's been really interesting the last couple of years, and just going from really tough times of having to dig extremely deep to survive. You know, when I went through what I went through 2 years ago, I was thinking, is this time's up for me? Do I have to go back to the UK now, or can I stay out here? And I guess the reward for that is becoming a director of the company and having that ownership there, and being able to have a say and the freedom of building something out, which is epic.
Brilliant.
Yeah, just any advice for people would be just keep set yourself a game plan the night before. And focus in. I try and live by like an 8x8x8 type of rule, where 8 hours of crunch time in the day, 8 hours of me time, 8 hours of school. And I would advise anyone to just crunch as much as you can into the time frame. And you will get epic results from doing that. And that's honestly what's happened to me over the last couple of years.
So I mean, that was kind of my final, I suppose, bit of advice I need from you to wrap this up is, what advice would you give someone who is about to go to the US, wherever it may well be, as the first person on the ground to start up a office for where they work? You know, it's obvious to go. It's obvious to say in the sense of, look, go and explore, go and do your research, make sure that you settle yourself down, etc. But what's missing? You know, there's obviously other things that might help.
The first thing, be incredibly open-minded. Absolutely. I think when you've been in the same place for a long time, you are very much a product of your environment and your people. That's not a bad thing, because you should never forget where you come from. I'm always checking in every day on, all right, this is who I am, this is where I came from.
Those results every day.
Yeah, definitely. So you never forget your roots, but But it's easy to say that without meaning it. And meaning it is, you know, when you go and do something different, you're unique is creating that difference. And I think being open-minded and accepting other people, accepting other cultures, ideas, possibilities, will really help you learn a lot. And that is learning how to swim in a different waters, you know, different waters compared to where you're from.
Yeah.
And then I think you just build connections from there, and it's just listening. Back to what we discussed earlier, it's listening to people, because in listening to people, you can learn the good and the bad, right? You can, you know, if you see something in that person, listening to the bad can help you shape and mold and guide that person.
Of course.
Listening to the good will help you know where to put your time, because I think a lot of recruiters go down a route where they are spending so much time in the wrong areas, and that's what gets very frustrating.
Yeah.
Whereas you can listen to people and then know, okay, there's no point in me taking them down this route that I was planning to take them on. It's not going to work. But because we're KPI and the numbers, like they feel like I've got to do it because it's my job. No,
Yeah, of
don't
course.
do that. Yeah, just listen to what they're saying and go get something else. Go find them something they're truly going to really appreciate and value, and that's where it's at.
Brilliant.
So there's a big playground in the States to do that, right? There's so much opportunity everywhere you go, and it's constantly changing and constantly growing. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for anyone to come over here. You know, I can't speak for other countries and places like that because I don't have the experience, but yeah, it's been an interesting transition, and I feel like as a recruiter, you are well and truly valued out here.
Brilliant. Yeah. Tom, mate, honestly, I've got a whole page of notes, and you've shared some really insightful stuff, which has been incredibly good. I think anyone that's listening in, you know, reach out to Tom, ask him any questions. If you're about to move over to LA, which is loads of recruiters out there are trying to do that with their firms, you know, definitely worth getting some advice and some suggestions from people like Tom that are already out there. But Tom, what you've done, mate, I wish you the best of luck, and I know you're going to smash it this year. So we'll be in touch, I'm sure, anyway. But again, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Elliot. Anytime. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to discuss, you know, I'm more than happy to give you some tips or share my experience. And yeah, let's keep in touch. It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. Thanks.